Live button.
Let's rock. Okay, what's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to today's daily Q&A. It is Monday, the 7th of February. And in case we haven't met, my name is Yanni Bormeister. To my left, your right, is Richard the Rig Lellies, head coach of the Unified Movement System and Unity Gym. And we are, together, Unity Gym and the Unified Movement System, where we turn driven people into athletes. Today, we've got a great topic. We're going to be talking about training tips for a stronger bench press. And this comes off the back of a discussion I had with one of our new members in the Movement Mastermind group. And she is a power lifter. And it got me thinking that we've got a little bit of an insight, a very valuable insight that we can teach those of you who are training for a strong bench press. And it works, and it's backed by our own research and many, many great strength and conditioning coaches. I learned this stuff from the late Charles Poliquin. It's been reinforced lately by a friend of ours, Sebastian Oreb, aka Australian strength coach. He is quite famous for training many professional athletes, from rugby players to MMA fighters to Hafthor Bjornsson, the strongest man in the world for a period of time. And I think he still holds one of the deadlift records. Maybe he does hold the deadlift record. I'm not sure if anyone's beat it yet. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not up to date with it, but man, he is a strong guy.
Strong dude, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and famously, Sebastian has a very, very good reputation for taking people who think that their bench press is maxed out and taking it further. And there is one key element to how he, well, there's a couple of key elements to how he trains people, which I can't give too much away. But what I can share is what we're going to talk about today, which is the concept of structural balance. Before I do, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Rich. How are you?
I'm good, Yanni. Had a nice weekend. I'm ready for another week of training and shows, live shows. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then I would like to give a big warm welcome to the newest members of our tribe. Let's have a look here. We got Craig Holsworth, Yadov Sumit, Elvira, Carly Newman. Shout out to Carly. She's actually doing her personal training certification at the moment. Olivia Hayusa. I hope I have not made a mess of that. I just always like to encourage you guys to dive in and interact and let us know what you're here for. Why did you join the Movement Mastermind group? And everyone watching on YouTube, first of all, smash that like button. I'm going to do that right now because I haven't already. And jump on over to the UMS Movement Mastermind group. We'll throw a link in the comments. There's always a link in the description of these videos. It's a free group, and it is sort of where we're able to interact at a higher level. Why is that? Because people can post videos of themselves training, and we can give them critique and feedback. It's something that we cannot do on YouTube. So as good as YouTube is, we are limited to how much we can connect and interact with you guys. Big shout out to Ricky Webster. He's saying, "Hey fellas, greetings from Birmingham, Alabama, USA." Watched such a good movie last night, American Underdog. It's about the quarterback who won the Super Bowl for them in 2000. I can't remember his name. Maybe you'll know, Ricky, if you're into NFL. I'm a big NFL fan. My God, what is it? What's his name? Anyway, amazing story. Amazing story. American Underdog. Check it out. It'll come to me. Also, a big shout out to Jessica, Emma B, Christy Murphy, Leopoldo Villages, I hope, Lucas Slook, Clayton Magnuson, Malen Curlson, Roberta Nichols, Michael Murillo, Amber Charles, Bianca Wayman, Nathan Lee Taylor, Dan West, and Joe Ann Hood, all joining the Movement Mastermind group. Let us know why you joined the group and what you would like to learn this year, what you would like to unlock, what you would like to improve. Maybe it's the bench press. So, Richie, why don't you kick us off by explaining the concept of structural balance a little bit?
Yeah, so when we talk about structural balance, we mean unilaterally from left arm versus right arm, leg versus right leg, to put it simply. But we also refer to this as stability systems versus prime moving systems. So when you think of the shoulder, what moves the arms and the shoulders, think of pecs, lats, these big global muscles that flex the shoulder and extend the shoulder. But you also have the stability muscles that hold basically the arm bone, the humerus in the socket, like the rotator cuff. And when a good structural balance means that the rotator cuff and the stability system is strong enough to cope with the demands of the primary muscles, the movers, the pecs, the lats, so that that humerus stays in the socket well and it copes. And yeah, it just basically can hold that arm bone where it should be during a certain movement. Yeah, and when there's a disparity between those two, the stability and the prime movers, then you've got structural imbalance. And then that's when injury can manifest. And yeah, we'll get on to what else it could mean now.
Yeah, that's right. Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner was the NFL quarterback. I had to know. I
You
had to
Googled it
know.
right then, didn't you?
It's still he's a Hall of Famer, and it's still one arguably one of the greatest underdog stories in American football history, and it is such a great story. I was like tearing up, man. I got all emotional. I love those movies. Anyway, love a good sports movie, sporting underdog movie. There you go, Ricky. Check it out, American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. Yeah, so Richie's bang on. We break it down into structural balance at Unity Gym is the left versus the right side, so body symmetry, the agonist versus antagonist, so front and opposing muscle systems, think biceps and triceps, chest and back, hamstrings and quads, and then of course the prime movers and the stabilizers, and what Richie says bang on. You know, the best example of that is the shoulder and the hip. You've got the deep glute muscles stabilizing the hip, and then you've got all the hamstrings and the hip flexors and quads moving the hip, and glutes moving the hip. And in the shoulder, you've got the pecs, lats, bicep, rhomboids, things like that, moving the shoulder, traps, and then inside you've got the rotator cuff. And like I initially heard this from I learned this concept from the late Charles Poliquin, who learnt it from his mentors, and then I had it reinforced by our good friend Dr. Tony Battaglio, who's a regular on our podcast this season, and I believe one of the most knowledgeable and intellectual personal trainers alive at the moment. He is brilliant, and someone that you should certainly be following if you're not already. TonyBattaglio.com, and and then it was really reinforced by watching how Bass trains his members and clients, because he is training us the strongest bench pressers in the world, and that's probably the best validation that you can get. When he gets someone in, we've had him on our podcast a couple of times this year. We've once already, and he'll be on again. And we talk about this. We talk about the structural balance concept, because it's easy to get someone stronger when they're a beginner. You can just apply any logic to programming, and they'll increase strength. And that there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the adaptation principle sort of states that any consistency in training that wasn't done before is a new stimulus that the body will adapt to. And you could even take an absolute beginner and get them to do 5 sets of 10 push-ups a day, or every second day, or every other day, and they would increase their pressing strength exponentially. But as someone gets more and more skilled and proficient in the pressing movements, you get diminishing returns. It's like anything; it's the law of diminishing returns. And so, to see Bass improve the strength of people who already have a 200 kilo, 440-pound bench press, and get them, 10, 20% stronger very quickly within a matter of weeks, if maybe months, is really, really good validation that this principle is a sound principle. And that is that when 9 times out of 10, when he gets them in, he doesn't do a lot of more bench pressing. That generally they're already doing enough bench pressing. What he does is bring up the strength of their pulling prime movers. So think bench rows and rowing movements, horizontal pulling movements, and the rotator cuff, external rotation, internal rotation. Internal rotation is usually stimulated sufficiently just by the pressing movement because the action of the shoulder internally rotates as you press. So it's not as important unless there's an injury rehabilitation involved. But the traps, the lower trapezius, the muscles that help to set the scapula or retract the scapula, and all of the horizontal pulling and external rotating musculature are brought up in strength. And without adding any additional bench pressing, they increase their bench exponentially. And I've watched this happen. I've watched it happen in our gym. I've watched it happen to myself. And I have been able to maintain, since applying this method, I've been able to maintain a 308-pound bench press, 140 kilos for 1 rep. I tried this out the other day in the gym and quite comfortably got 1 rep. I don't specifically train for bench press like for comp. I don't train for powerlifting. I've never done a powerlifting competition, but I like to stay really proficient in the 3 disciplines of powerlifting: deadlift, squat, and bench press, because they are 3 of the fundamental movements that we focus on at Unity Gym. But
Yeah.
unlike a traditional powerlifter, we have 6 fundamental movements, and we actually have a few more because we include auxiliary movements, supplementary movements to complement them. But fundamental movements for us are the opposing systems as well. So we do bench press, bent over row. We do vertical press or overhead press or military
Yep.
press and chin up. We do deadlift and squat. And we also have incline bench press. And we also have our remedials, so split squats, single leg squat, external rotation, and trap 3 raise. Those are the fundamental lifts in the unified movement system. And we do that. We prioritize every one of those movements as much as each other so that we maintain anatomical structural balance. And it works exceptionally well.
Yeah. Gregory on the live chat is asking, can he ask a question? You sure can, man. Drop it in the comments. Let us know.
I hope it's not going to be one of those. Is it okay to fart whilst I'm training questions? I'm trying to think. Is Gregory the guy that asked that question last time?
Let's hope not. Um, yeah, so I think an important thing for people to know watching the stream is that when it comes to training, the thing that's going to, I guess, stop you from getting to your goals quickest is the sooner you run into an injury. And we all come up to this. We come to this point where we meet injury, or we're very close to it, and you need to have an action plan to do that, to sort of get around it. So training in a way that structurally balances your body is going to be the best thing for that, in my opinion. I mean, other than, all the other recovery techniques that you have, sleep and nutrition, training in a way that both trains your stability system, trains your body in both an agonist and antagonist manner, but also, trains the body from Monday to Friday in a balanced way is going to be the best thing for that.
Yeah. And it comes down to how you program, not just intra sets and workouts, but also the training split. And some people get away with. I've done a movement specialization program, and that's totally fine. Where you might do a whole program phase where you're really emphasizing one movement, but you have to understand that it comes at a cost. And one of the worst injuries I've ever sustained in my shoulder was doing a bench press specialization program where I was bench pressing 4 times a week, prioritizing bench, and I didn't put enough emphasis on keeping the other lifts strong and keeping especially the rotator cuff and I ended up doing something really silly. I did a human flag whilst I was quite fatigued bench pressing, and yeah, did a nasty tear in my rotator cuff because my shoulder was pretty fatigued, and uh, yeah, so I would say just take take it into consideration. What's your training split look like? Is it training? Are you training in a manner that promotes structural balance, that keeps those lifts? And there is actually a formula. There's a couple of formulas that were popularized by some of the best strength coaches. We have created a hybrid version of Charles Poliquin's formula, well, the formula that he was a proponent of. Tony Battaglio, I think, took that one step further. And then we even took that a step further than what we learned from Tony many, many years ago. And yeah, that's a really, really important part. Now, Greg, let's just have a quick look at what he's said here. It's my first time on this channel. My shoulders get exerted while doing a bench press to maximize pressure on the chest. Any tips? Uh, in is push pull legs good enough? How do I join your program? Okay, that's easy. You just have to go to unitygym.com. I can there's a link in the description. But first step, Gregory, I'd encourage you just to join the free group, the UMS Movement Mastermind. I've put that link in the comments there. The first things first, welcome to the channel, brother. It's great to have you here. Now, while doing bench, having your shoulders fatigue is quite normal because your shoulders, your deltoids are very active during a bench press, especially the anterior fibers of the deltoid. And so I wouldn't be too concerned with that. You're always going to, your limiting factor is always going to be the weakest link. And you could do some auxiliary work on the shoulders. And that's what I would certainly recommend. That means, doing complementary work at the end of the workout that's going to help bring up the shoulders. Just look at your training split. Are you strengthening your shoulders? This is something that is also very common if your shoulders are really sort of tight and have restricted mobility. You're going to find that the rotator cuff fatigues quite quickly because they're working extremely hard to stabilize and keep the shoulders, keep the humerus from gliding around in the socket. Joint glide is when there's sort of a looseness in the socket whilst it's trying to create movement. And yeah, that's what I would recommend. I would recommend focusing. We've got heaps and heaps of free content that you can digest on the YouTube channel before you need to start paying us for coaching. I would, of course, I won't say no to bringing on a new person into our tribe, but exhaust the free resources first. I always like to say for people, there's heaps of great tutorials on pressing and everything. We've got Gary Richards here. What exercise is the best to strengthen? This is Gary from before. Gary, you have just been removed.
I love a good troll
From
in a live stream. Hey, YouTube is full of them. That is about all that we got time for. Is that right, Yanni? I mean, I'm looking at the time here.
We're going to jump into our coaching.
Can definitely expand upon this in the next episodes this week, next live streams this week. So stick around. Tune in.
Yep. Sounds good. We're going to go deep onto this, guys. See you tomorrow.